Good morning, and thank you for your patience. Welcome to City Council Chambers. In attendance today, we have members of the committee, Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, chair of this committee. To my immediate left, we have Danielle McCray, Vice Chairwoman of the committee and representative of the 2nd District.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
To my far left, we have Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, not a member of the committee. She represents the 14th District and has a vested interest in this bill. To my far right, we have Councilman Ed Reisinger, member of the committee representing the 10th District. And to his left, my right, we have Councilman Eric Costello, member of the committee representing the 11th District. And next to him, we have Councilman Robert Stokes, representative of the 12th District and member of the committee. We also have Kimberly representing the Council President's Office, and then also member of the Office of the President, Rebecca Simmons, in the back. And and then also we have I mentioned Mary Pat. Yeah. Who's this guy? Oh, Kaylin Young, the Director of Legislation for the Council President's Office.
No relation.
Okay, this morning, the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee will have our second work session for Bill 18-0307, the Water Accountability and Equity Act, for the purpose of increasing the availability and affordability of basic water and wastewater service to low-income customers and assuring a fair process for all consumers before the city exercises its authority to cut off water services, impose liens, or take similar action. This bill was introduced on December 3rd, 2018. This bill was sponsored by former President Jack Young. This bill was first heard by the committee on May 16th, 2019. There will be no public testimony during this work session. And then I have a brief statement before we begin. In the last work session, I opened with remarks about water being a natural resource and a human right. This morning, my conviction for that belief is just as strong as it was then. There are some issues that should not be politicized, and this is one of them. This legislation will affect residents of this city, some of whom live on fixed incomes and others who may have fallen on hard times, and it is our job to be the protectors of those who can't defend themselves. The purpose of this committee and the other committees of this council are to provide oversight of city government and to make decisions that are in the best interests of the residents of Baltimore City. Today, I urge the advocacy groups, the city agencies, and my colleagues to do what's in the best interests of the people of Baltimore City. During this work session, we will be hearing amendments for this legislation, lots of amendments, asking questions about the impact that it will have on the residents and agencies of this city. And then we will vote on the proposed amendments after each individual representative has presented. And at this time, we're going to start with the Department of Finance. And Bob Cinema, introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning. Bob Senemy, Budget Director, representing Department of Finance. We had one amendment to propose. We're essentially removing in the bill the section that deals with tax sales. There was, in the original bill, there was a proposal to reduce the rate of redemption from 12% to 5%. In our original bill response and in our original testimony, we had noted that this interest rate is meant to entice investors to come into our tax sale. And without that enticement, our fear is that we would have a significant decline in our general fund revenue. So just for perspective, when we send out final bills and legal notices, there's about $40 million of unpaid property taxes each year. By enticing investors to come in and pay us those property taxes, that is an enforcement mechanism so that we can collect that general fund revenue. In our opinion, moving this from 12% to 5% is not enough of an enticement for an investor to come into to a very risky situation. And so we would just recommend just striking that section. And again, we think if it's lowered from 12 to 5, that would have a significant impact on our ability to collect not just water revenue, but also general fund revenue since it's part of our tax sale.
Okay, committee, anyone have any questions? Open for discussion for the finance amendment? Is there a motion to move the finance? Do the advocates have any questions about this amendment? Councilwoman Clark, yes?
I'm sorry, I've read this bill several times, but I can't remember what that tax sale number, how it relates to the bill. I mean, if you, basically.
Yeah, so from our perspective, we had the same thought. There's a lot of, the bill's mostly about the water fund, but
yes,
there's also a small section that says that we would reduce the interest rate for redemption on tax sale properties from 12% to 5%. So what that means is every year when we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, there's a significant amount of unpaid bills. And those that pay us, the investors that come in and pay those property taxes off on behalf of those people, they need an interest rate that will entice them to get into the process that they'll earn, given the fact that it's a risky collection bet.
But what effect does the reduction, what effect does that have on the finances of the bill itself about the water? I mean, what's the relationship?
So we're looking at it from a general fund perspective because this rate applies to any liens that are outstanding. So we think it would also have an effect on the water side, but just from a general fund perspective, there are $40 million of outstanding property taxes each year when we go have final bill and legal notice. If we reduce, we rely on folks coming in to pay, investors coming in to pay off those liens, which gives them the right, of course, to eventually, get the close on the home. And so by lowering the rate from the investor either eventually gets to foreclose on the home or gets a 12% return. And by lowering that to 5%, there's just no way that investors would come into that process in our belief, and it would put a lot of general fund revenue at risk that we rely on each year from the tax sale process.
Thank you.
Make a motion to move this amendment.
Moved by Vice Chair McCray, second by Councilman Costello. Chair Middleton, yes. Vice Chair McCray?
Yes.
Yes. Councilman Costello? Yes. Councilman Reisinger? Yes. Councilman Stokes? Okay, this bill, okay, I'll hold that amendment. It does pass. Okay, now we'd like to hear from Department of Public Works.
Good morning, Chairwoman and fellow council members. And also I want to say good morning to all the advocates who are here today. So let me just preface by saying, unfortunately, from a utility standpoint, DPW is responsible for the water utilities, not only in the city, but the region as a whole. We've been facing a number of regulatory mandates over the years, like our consent decree, our administrative order to convert our open finished water reservoirs to underground storage tanks, and not to mention 4,000 miles of water lines out there are on average of 80 plus years old. Every day we are experiencing water main breaks, and every day there are citizens living in the homes that they got the inconvenient by the water main breaks, not to mention the motors and so on and all that. So in other words, what I'm saying is we find ourselves at a junction where, due to lack of what I call reinvestments, lack of foresight in terms of we have aging workforce, we have aging systems, all these needs to be required, renew, and so on and all that. But all these deferred maintenance gone for multiple decades led us to where we are today.
Oh, I see.
So what I'm trying to say is that I think there's no argument that, unfortunately, from a utility standpoint, in order for us to maintain our current level of service to our citizens, i.e., when they turn the faucets on, there's actually water coming out, clean, fresh, drinkable water coming out, and then flush the toilet, and they want to make sure that wastewater goes away to our treatment plant, gets treated properly so we can put it back in the environment. We take our responsibility in the department very seriously because we find ourselves as the environmental steward, safeguarding the environment, not to say we are also, on the other part, that we're focusing on the health and well-being of our citizens. So over the years, we have been raising water rates. We understand the hardship that those water rates had placed on our citizens. And I would say go back in, my first day arrival back 8.5 years ago. Very first year of my arrival, I'd done something that's unprecedented, which is back then we have everyone recognized there were senior discount and there were low-income discounts. We floated those discounts with water rate increases, just so we can provide better safety nets. But certainly, this is a subject that's not just talking locally, but it's talking really nationally, because I think all metropolitan areas, big cities and alike, small cities and small system alike, they all are experiencing the same thing we are experiencing. We haven't been reinvesting in our infrastructure, period. So over the course of the last 1.5 to 2 years, we've been working very hard on this program. Now everyone knows is Baltimore H2O program, which is also, there's a Baltimore H2O Assist or Plus program. So there are two programs out there, BH2O and BH2O Plus. We've done that is because we recognize that the old assistance program or CAP program did not provide sufficient enough of safety net. And we want to make sure also we are able to capture more folks families that require these assistance. Because our enrollments, unfortunately, for a decade plus with those programs in place, we are only netting about 3,000 or so households. Through the last census tract, we've done our analysis. We recognize there are 43,000, based on our calculation, 43,000 households that should qualify for our new BH2O and BH2O Plus, certainly overall. Now, what the BH2O provides is individuals, families that with a household of up to 3 at 175% poverty level will get a 43% discount. But we didn't stop there. We rolled out the Baltimore H2O Plus program, which is a recognition of folks who are living below the 50% federal poverty level with additional $250 credits annually to help in their water bills. Now, we are very excited about these two programs, and I want to pass on to you and share with you that since it's opening July 1st, we are now literally have more than 7,000 plus families that we are able to provide these assistance to from our previous 3,000 or so. It's a huge success. It's an early success, but we're not stopping there. We know we want to go on there, continue to communicate, promote, and certainly through the support and the collaboration between the department and the advocates and have them continue to help us spread the words out there to get more people enrolled, because our target is the 43,000 families out there. So what you have, we passed along a set of amendment that to the current bill. And I want to apologize that you literally just got that amended bills this morning. I know you didn't have an opportunity to review them yet. But I would say that we've been working in good faith, thought that we were able to segment out the accountability and affordability as two separate efforts. And we were working very hard on the accountability part, but we were just recently, last day or so, got notified that the negotiation with advocates did not pan out. So we are here offering our amendment, which will codify our BH2O program in the bill 18-0307. Now, I understand there are discussion about the means of delivering these assistance to our ratepayers. But I don't think that, from our department and certainly from the council and from the advocacy group, I think our motivation is the same. Our motivation is to provide the assistance that those individuals or individual families out there that needs assistance. So while we can continue to move the reinvestments of our infrastructure going for the future, because not reinvesting our infrastructure is not the answer. Because we all know our infrastructure is crumbling. We just had the hearing yesterday on Pole Home. When we talk about a system that's 100+ years old, and then everyone relying on it, when you have this disruption, how inconvenient that is. We struggle with that every day. We have a certain amount of dollars in terms of form of revenue that we had to pay for all these investments. So we want to be very, very mindful of that. But I think we are here, and I'm hoping that I can convey the message to everyone that if our motivation is the same, and what we are actually talking about is the means of delivering that service or the assistance. We have a program that is in place, is rolling out. Okay. We have already nearly more than double our enrollment in just a matter of a month or two. Perhaps we can join forces and continue to focus on how we deliver the service. So what I'm trying to say is that I know the bill itself is working on a different set of means how to deliver that service. I'm just saying to the council that we have a system in place, was codified by the Board of Estimate. It took a couple years to actually make it happen. It costs minimal amount. As a rollout of the BH2O and BH2O Plus, we collaborated with the Mayor's Office of Family and Children. So, but yet we are here talking about which method should we deliver this service to. I think we need to, if we truly mean that we want to provide the service to our ratepayers, we have a system in place. And I'm not saying that the system in place is the best and it should never get modified or changed. And that's part of what I call a continuous improvement. As we learn more, we'll continue to adjust that program accordingly, with the eyes on providing the assistance that those citizens that need help with. And from the accountability portion of it, I know there's been a lot of discussions. I know the separate accountability write-up or the markup that was shared with Council President's Office, with Councilwoman, and certainly with advocates and so on and all that. And I have in there pledged that we will make determination for any water bill dispute internally within 30 days. And that's our goal. It's a very stretch goal, very much a stretch goal for the department because we're going to need to continue to train our employees. We got to look at our resources to make sure we match everything up. We certainly committed to do that. At the same time, we're looking at ways how we leverage technology to help us to be more transparent. So in there, so I would like you to know, in the background, the department is also looking at some sort of technology tracking system that we can put on our website. So as people lodge water bill disputes, it can be tracked from the second that the call came in, and actually literally show the progress. That's something that we're working on as we speak right now. I want you to know also our BH2O, BH2O Plus, as rolled out, the department did not hire any additional people. We did not have to change our new billing system. So in other words, is that we literally flicked the switch July 1st, we were able to conduct business. Applications are going out. We have nearly 2,000 inquiries regarding to BH2O, and there were close to 1,200 applications that was mailed out, and we have already received 267 completed. Now these applications are what I call it above and beyond the 7,000 that we were able to net administratively by comparing those individuals that are receiving assistance for energy, the LAHI program. Because they're using the similar 175% poverty line. So that's an easy exercise for us. Those individuals has now received what I call an opt-out letter from the department. Absent of them saying anything back to us, they are automatically enrolled now. As of this today, we have not received anyone who wishes to opt out our BH2O assistance. So what I'm trying to say to you is that we have gained some momentum. We're getting a lot of early success, and we're going to continue to leverage all the resources at our disposal to continue to push out these programs out to the family that needs assistance. You have the amendment now in front of you. But also, I want to also offer this point for your consideration. The utility was set up decades ago for the purpose of protecting the dollars that we receive in the form of through the water bills. Is for the sole purpose of investing in our water sewer infrastructure or water sewer systems. We were able to carve out $10 million at this point in our budget because we're targeting about 50% enrollment with an ultimate $20 million set aside if we should ever reach the 43,000, which no doubt in my mind that we will. Now, certainly going beyond that, there are some consequences. Going beyond that would mean that we either had to receive assistance from the general fund, because I want you to recognize for the social services program out there, the social service program do the complete wraparound, excluding water assistance. That means they provide food stamps, they provide energy assistance, you name it, they got it, except water assistance was excluded from that social service program. We are using enterprise fund for social service assistance. We've been doing this for decades, and we'll continue to push forward with that. But what I'm saying, beyond that, it has consequences to our revenue. That means we're going to either need assistance from the general fund, or we're going to have to raise water rates to cover those extra costs. I mean, that's the reality. I am the department head that entrusted by you all to do what I need to do to protect the infrastructure, protect the citizens. We try every day very hard to do a balancing act. And I want you to know, and you have my assurances, we take affordability very, very seriously.
I can say that.
From day one, my arrival, we've been focusing on affordability. In my travel to other organizations across the country, as I'm on a number of boards, every utility out there is talking about affordability, including Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. And I don't think there is a perfect solution that will fit all scenario. And I think our BH2O and BH2O program is the program that fits our Baltimore City well. So with that, I close my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. First, are there any questions or comments from the committee to Director Chow? Any comments from the advocates? On his particular?
Well, the amendments actually haven't been shared with us. We haven't seen them, the amendments.
You want to speak into the mic? One of
Uh,
you, just express yourself.
Just that the amendments that Director Chow has referenced.
You are.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Margaret Henn with the Pro Bono Resource Center. We have not seen those amendments, so as far as commenting on them, we haven't seen them. We don't know what's in them.
Okay. I do want to recognize that President Scott is here also at this hearing. And before we go back to President Scott, if you don't mind, we'd like to thank you, Director Chow. We'd like to hear from the Law Department.
I just received these amendments this morning. There's no way for me to know if they're legal.
Okay. On that note, Mr. President,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that we all know how important water and water availability is to the citizens of Baltimore, and we all know that this process has been very long and very tedious. So I thank you for being steadfast in your support of this legislation, but also operating in a fair and an equal way for both sides. But Madam Chair, I'd like to explain a package of amendments you and the committee have before you. In the Law Department's report on this bill, which we received in May, they proposed several amendments, many technical in nature, to the bill. The amendments were reviewed by your committee, but also at a previous work session, they were also reviewed by the Coalition of Advocates who have been instrumental to the direction of this bill. That coalition identified which of the Law Department's amendments they support, which they oppose, and which they do differently. In the spirit of operating from consensus, my office has compiled those amendments, which are both proposed by the law and supported by the coalition, and I'm asking that someone move these amendments and that the committee adopt this package of amendments today.
Is there a motion to move the President's amendments? Motion moved by Councilman Reisinger. Do I get a second? Second by Vice Chair McCray. Chair Middleton, yes. Vice Chair McCray?
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger? Yes. Councilman Stokes? Yes. Councilman Costello? Yes. These amendments are approved. And then I can go. Since the law department's finished. Okay, I just have a few statements before we move on. The committee is in receipt of a 14-page packet of amendments proposed by the Department of Public Works, and we, as you stated, Director Chow, received them this morning. After the council tried for months and months to come up with a bill that would be acceptable to DPW, then Council President Young introduced this bill all the way back in, again, December of 2018. Then after several more months, I announced a hearing for this bill, which was scheduled for May 2019. Prior to that hearing, I asked the Department of Public Works to provide this committee with written amendments to the bill, and we received nothing. A month later, I announced a second work session. I again requested that DPW provide amendments to this committee with enough time to review and consider them. Again, we received nothing. Now this morning, minutes before the session is scheduled to start, we received this 14-page document. So on that note, the committee cannot be expected to review all these amendments on such short notice, and the people cannot be expected to wait any longer. The time to move this bill back to the full council has long passed, and the Department of Public Works delay tactics will not stand in the way of that. So on that note, is there a motion to move the bill favorable with amendments? Before, okay, I'll take a step back and recognize
I just want to ask a
Councilwoman
question.
Clark.
It's
You
not-
have a question for Director Chow.
Yes, I do.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I have a point of order. I have a point of order for you, if that's all right, if I may proceed Councilwoman Clark's questions for Director Chow.
Yes.
We have moved.
1 minute.
We have moved all of the amendments with the exception of the DPW proposed package, is that correct? Because I know we had some from law. Oh, so there's more amendments to consider.
Not all the law.
We've only moved the president's.
Okay. And then there are also amendments, so there are amendments, so we've moved the president's package.
And we're not moving
DPW, right. Were there other amendments that law proposed?
finance, we already
We
approved.
moved those, and then did law have amendments as well?
As far as I can tell with the limited time that I've been to review it, it looks like Law Department's amendments 8, 9, 11, and 12 were not moved, and so we won't be signing the bill for form and legal sufficiency if it's not incorporated at some later part.
Got it, understood. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I just wanted to know where we were at in terms of, we're done considering amendments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, understood. Yep, thank you, Madam Chair.
So, can I ask that?
So, Councilwoman Clark, question?
I do have a question, but I did want to make a comment about what was just said. I hear what law is saying here, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and you won't sign if you don't get them. I presume we can work this out in the interim so that we have second reader
Yes.
agreements.
Yes.
And they can't all be, I'm going to guess they don't all make the bill insufficient, legally insufficient, but I haven't read them. My question is really to Mr. Chow. Mr. Chow, I have a special interest in a component.
Could you move the mic closer?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. I have a special interest in a component of this bill, which is the appeal process. We used to have informal appeals. I found them most helpful because it brought citizens into a room with records available and a master who was neutral in being a contractual employee. For example, the way the Environmental Control Board works on citations. And so, although I don't have an amendment prepared today, I hope that there will be one by the time we come to a second reader. And so that amendment would say that, of course, we appeal when we get a bill that we don't agree with. You know, we go through the department and appeal it and try to get it corrected. In the long run, however, if we're not satisfied, I would like an amendment which inserts this master hearing process as a matter of law, so that a decision is made by a related but neutral party that is with all the records, et cetera, so that it's appealable then to the circuit court. So I haven't, it's not written, but it will be, and I wonder if you can support such a thing.
Well, thank you, Councilwoman Clark, for your question. First of all, part of the reason, as I stated earlier, why that now you're beginning to see this last-minute amendment is because the department was understood that we were going to be focusing on the accountability, which is the appeal process.
I see.
Lots of time and effort and energy has spent in that area. And there was actually an amendment or a bill that was produced to codify that process. When I talked about the 30 days earlier, it was about that. That means when the appeal comes in, we will do internal review, we'll render a decision within 30 days, and the further appeal will go to the Environmental Control Board as a hearing party from there on.
And then from there, if appealed, it would go to the circuit court.
Right. It would
That's a
come
good-
back to me,
that's a
and then
good
we'll go to
answer.
circuit court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Are there any comments, final comment or statement from advocates?
I have a statement, but if you want to move,
Okay.
do you want me to do it here?
Either, wherever you're comfortable.
Good morning, Chair Middleton, Vice Chair McCray, Council President Scott, and members of the committee. I'm Rihanna Eckel, Senior Organizer with Food and Water Watch and Food and Water Action. I also serve as the convener of the Baltimore Right to Water Coalition, which has more than 50 member organizations. More than 3 years ago, our coalition came together to find solutions to our city's water billing crisis, widespread and persistent issues with unaffordable and incorrect water bills. Our comprehensive proposal, the Water Accountability and Equity Act, is before you, your committee today, and we urge you to report it to the full council favorably. The recent issuance of large ransomware water bills makes this legislation all the more urgent for households and businesses across Baltimore. Without action by the City Council, these problems will continue to deepen. Water rates increase by 10% every July, despite the fact that more than half of Baltimoreans already have unaffordable water bills, according to the United Nations Right to Water guidelines. And many people have billing problems dating back years. The Water Accountability and Equity Act will address these issues by creating a real water affordability program to help all low-income families, including renters who make up a majority of our city and are currently denied assistance no matter their income, and by establishing a new independent customer advocates office to work with customers to address billing concerns. In our more than 2 years working on this legislation, DPW Director Rudy Chow has refused to engage with us. On October 4th, 2017, members of our coalition met with Director Chow to discuss our proposed legislation, and he said point blank at that meeting that he did not want or need any legislation. In the year and change between that meeting and the introduction of this bill in December of 2018, members of then Council President Jack Young's office tried valiantly to bring the department to the table without success, delaying the introduction of this bill by over a year. We tried to engage with them because in theory, we share the same mission and goal of ensuring that everyone in the city has access to safe and affordable water service, but we have only been met with opposition. Meanwhile, when the coalition requested data from the department for one of the nation's foremost utility affordability experts, Roger Colton, to analyze the affordability situation in Baltimore, DPW denied us access to critical information, even when requested by a state delegate.
My role in this.
In December of 2018, days before the introduction of this legislation, we met with a DPW senior staff member. When we asked if there was any part of the bill that they liked or a starting point where we could work from to amend the bill so it works for the department and the people of Baltimore, we were told that there was absolutely nothing that they liked in the entire bill. We were told in late February of this year that the department was working on amendments to the legislation. Now, 7 months later, we have basically still been able to get the department to give us a single sentence of feedback to make this legislation workable for them beyond it's not possible. As you are aware, despite ample notice, DPW came to the last work session you held offering neither comments or an amendment to the Water Accountability and Equity Act, instead sharing information about their inferior programs that they have instituted since our bill was introduced, and the same attitude was shared today. Since the last work session, our coalition has worked diligently to get the feedback on the legislation and find common ground as we were instructed to do by Chairwoman Middleton. We have repeatedly met with the Council President's Office, we've met with members of this committee, we've met with the Director of the Environmental Control Board and the Mayor's administration twice as well. We provided extensive feedback on the dispute resolution process put in place by the department on August 12th. Despite our good faith efforts to work with them, most recently, instead of drafting amendments to this legislation in a timely manner before your committee as promised, Director Chow and other staff have drafted legislation to codify DPW's deficient dispute resolution process, seeking to supplant these efforts in your committee and restart this multi-year process without addressing the affordability assistance that residents so desperately need. For Director Chow to encourage us to work together at this point in the process is too little, too late. And now I want to highlight the ways that the Water Accountability and Equity Act will better meet the needs of Baltimore City residents and businesses than DPW's inadequate H2O assists and the newly created appeals process with the Environmental Control Board. The Water Accountability and Equity Act creates a real affordability program. It goes beyond DPW's existing assistance program, which gives every household the same flat discount regardless of what they really need. Even with BH2O Assist and BH2O Assist Plus, water bills will remain unaffordable based on international standards for the nearly 30% of Baltimore households making less than $25,000 a year. This legislation will make sure that water bills are customized to ensure that they are affordable for every household based on their income and need. It will serve renters who make up 53% of Baltimore City households by providing them access to assistance and dispute resolution. DPW's program and proposals leave most renting families high and dry, treating renters as second-class water customers. Excluding more than half of the city is simply unacceptable. Our affordability program serves more people, yet costs the city less money, saving $19 million compared to the cost of H2O assists over the next 5 years. The affordability program in the legislation provides water bill stability and protections for households long into the future because it is based on percentage of income. With DPW's assistance program, bills will continue to grow more affordable each year as rates increase. Our proposal provides a pathway out of water debt. DPW's does not. The Office of the Water Customer Advocate provides an independent review process for billing disputes. DPW's proposal leaves Director Chow in charge of all final decisions on disputes. This independent office would provide a problem-solving, not finger-pointing framework to resolve customer disputes where advocates work with people to figure out how to stop and prevent high water bills. It would address a range of customer concerns from finding leaks to enrolling in assistance programs to disputing bills. DPW's proposal will only address disputes about water bills that have been received since July of this year, ignoring all pre-existing longstanding problems. The Water Customer Advocate will work to solve difficult, longstanding problems faced by customers and DPW, both on a customer-by-customer basis and on a long-term, big-picture basis. The Water Accountability and Equity Act provides transparency and accountability through mandatory reporting and hearings. In summary, the bill does more for the people of Baltimore, more to make sure our water is affordable, more to make sure our service is equitable for all people, including renters, and more to ensure that the problems are addressed and DPW is held accountable. The merits of this legislation are clear. DPW's disrespect and refusal to engage is consistent with the way that they have treated Baltimoreans every day. We are calling on you to put the people of Baltimore first and issue a favorable report on the Water Accountability and Equity Act.
Any further comments from the committee at this point? Is there a motion to move the bill favorable with amendments? And we're talking about the finance amendments and the President Scott's amendments. Moved by Costello. Do I have a second? Second by Reisinger. And Chair Middleton, yes. Vice Chair McCray?
Yes.
Yes. Costello? Yes. Yes. Reisinger? Yes. Stokes? Yes. The committee will, so this will move favorable with approved amendments. The committee will present this bill to the full council at the council meeting held on October 28th. So that, we have a lot of other amendments, as you can tell, that was given to us. And we are, have to review them, and that also gives time for I know the advocates have amendments as well. So, but October 28th is when this comes to the full council. So this is truly, we mean business now. The residents cannot wait any longer for this act. And again, October 28th, 2019, at the next council meeting. And that is a courtesy extending because it was ready for October 7th. So that is the last compromise that we are asking and working for. So I hope everything is worked out by then.
Madam
Councilwoman Clark.
Point of order. For the benefit of the committee and the rest of us on the council, I would ask that the law department would please number the amendments that has presented to this committee so that we know what we're talking about when we say a certain number, whatever they were, I think 8, 9, 10, something like that, were not approved, so that the council and the committee have a clear notion of what we're talking about here. If we could all have a sheet of law department amendments that are properly numbered, so we can reference the ones that have been approved and the ones that have not.
Hillary.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. As soon as possible, please.
So it looks like that request will be granted.
Absolutely. I've numbered them in sequential order for myself. I'm happy to do that for the councilman as well.
Okay.
And coordinate with to make sure what number the advocates matches up with. In other words, so they got the same numbers. They
Yeah,
match.
I don't see that. It's hard for me to understand on the president's amendments which ones correspond. I've been able to do some of that, but not
That's why
all.
we got to do this. So if we could get together so we know what the apples are and where the oranges go, so to speak.
Thank you. This work session and hearing is adjourned.
Thanks. Hey, thanks, Sharon.